1098765431.
Can I ask everyone to please take your seats? We're going to get started. Thank you. So we are now on item TTC 10.3, 2026 Annual Network Plan. Are there any questions for staff? No questions on the annual network? Oh, sorry. Vice Chair?
Yes, thank you. Maybe this is a reflection of my newness to the TTC, but could you go through could staff please go through the process that is used to basically determine the service plan and changes, in particular changes to the service plan, with, I guess, particular attention to communication and getting the right input and letting people know on a granular or street level what the changes are.
So through the chair, with regards to the LRT Surface Network Plan changes, these were as part of our annual service plan process in 2021 for Line 5, and in 2023 and 2024 for Line 6. Under all those plans, we did extensive public engagement at subway stations, at bus stops, focus groups with key stakeholders, including TTC riders, in terms of community groups, in terms of various equity-seeking groups. Student associations are all invited to these, so we received quite a bit of feedback, including public surveys, and all of that was communicated in advance in terms of the first tranche of changes that we put in October 12th.
And the other changes? For example, well, maybe put it this way. When are the changes for 2027 going to start in terms of brainstorming and then implementation, consultation and then implementation?
So in terms of the 2027 annual network plan, we're already starting that work right now. We did the first bit of public engagement actually as part of this year's annual network plan, since an express bus network review is a key part of our 2027 ASP or ANP. And so we've already done initial public engagement to see if there are ideas, feedback, any issues with the existing express bus network. And then through the first round of engagement that we do internally with councillors and with others, we'll be seeking ideas that we would assess as part of the 27 annual network plan.
Okay, and last question. Once the plan is developed and approved, how is it communicated? Well, I can imagine that some people who gave input might not know how you took the input and how it actually kind of got fleshed out into a real plan. And they would want to know, my area, if the Vaughan Road bus is changing, they would want to know maybe a month before or 2 months before the actual change, so that they can make alternative plans if they need to. So how is that communicated to folks?
Through the chair, I'll take that one. So through our customer communications channels, that begins to be communicated out. So some of it is literally at the stop level. When those changes are kind of contemplated and approved through the network plan, they would see that kind of on a stop. We use all of course, of our social media platforms and circling back with some of the people and groups who did participate in our planning committees and councils and those types of things. And so the same way we would communicate any shift or change to service, we would use kind of a full toolbox of tools to get it out there, recognizing that in this instance with, I think it's 37 changes for Eglinton alone, sometimes it's become more difficult to do the granular stop by stop, street by street. outreach, and so it becomes a little more high level in terms of how we communicate to their customers broadly.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Any other questions on Osborne? Commissioner Osborne, 5 minutes.
I'm also online.
Oh,
Chair?
sorry, Commissioner Deputy Mayor Malik, okay.
On the route productivity review, which begins on page 34, it's like the 5th attachment in there, there are a number of real stinkers where you quantify the cost, the subsidy per passenger. And like Etobicoke Bloor, numbers are eye-watering, how much the subsidy is there. Avenue Road, Bayview South, Avenue Road North, Mortimer, Silver Hills, there's a lot of them where either the whole route is just very hugely subsidized, or day parts where the subsidies are actually shocking. And I'm just wondering what we do with this information, because it would seem to me that it suggests that we should be considering some changes to these routes.
Through the chair, so we always monitor the performance of all of our routes, and as part of the annual network plan, we do identify the bottom 10% of underperforming routes. And what we do as part of that analysis is to assess if there are service changes or other changes that we can do to improve the performance prior to recommending, for example, elimination. That being said, since 2020 and the start of the pandemic, our priority was to protect network coverage and periods of service, which is why we have not taken action on many of these routes over the past several years, is that our priority was not to remove service. However, we do have this running list that we will be assessing through 2026 in particular, since we do know that ridership patterns have stabilized, and where there are potential opportunities for us to reallocate this investment to better serve our customers elsewhere, we will be making those recommendations, and we look forward to coming to Strategic Planning Committee later on in November with the process of how that will work.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Osborne. Next, we have Commissioner Malik.
Thank you very much. I have a number of questions, and I'm going to start with King Street. We know that on King Street, the replacement buses are often over capacity and passing people by. And with such a significant stretch of the streetcar route being on and up for replacement buses for a very significant amount of time in the next while, how are you ensuring adequate coverage given the carrying capacity differences between streetcars and buses?
Through the chair, when we plan the replacement service for a streetcar, our goal is to provide similar scheduled capacity as we would provide to a streetcar. So if a streetcar, we had planned trips of, let's say, one streetcar trip, we would replace it with 2 or 3 bus trips.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm just looking for what will be different, given that the experience that we've had is that actually has not panned out on the ground.
Through the chair, we will continue to use the learnings that we've had in terms of where the streetcar, in terms of ridership. What we were anticipating this year was that folks would be migrating to the streetcar diversion route. And some of the challenges we had operationally meant that folks preferred to stay on the buses. So that did not pan out the way we thought from a projection perspective. So this is what we will learn moving forward. We have been putting more focus on doing full bus replacements in the coming year for some of the streetcar impacts, so that we actually have the right number of buses instead of assuming that people would stay on a streetcar for a longer diversion.
So where will we see those learnings reflected? When will there be routing plans, particularly for King and York Street? I'm just trying to understand how the learnings that you're describing are actually made visible and experienced by TTC riders.
Yeah, so through the chair, the plans that we have in the annual network plan that show the King Street diversions for next year do reflect a more bus heavy and a bus replacement plan rather than a streetcar diversion plan. So this is where we are going to pay more attention to just having more bus capacity than we have had in the past couple years. And we've also, that is reflected in some of the planning this fall, where we have increased bus resources than we had originally budgeted for this construction program.
Okay. As was mentioned, when you're looking at the annual service plan, I know that you've shared with us that keeping operational considerations out of it is part of the approach. And that being said, there have been changes to routes that we've raised with you and other staff on Queens Quay without the level of consultation that you described, and we've seen that happen outside of the annual network review periods. How can communities and the ones that are coming to us about some of these route changes be consulted on these operational changes and to make sure that the process that you're describing is actually abided by?
Through the chair, so the changes that you talked about was one that was outside of the annual network plan process, and that was because of direct responses to some challenges that were happening due to construction on Ontario Line and also on congestion in the downtown core. That is something that we will build forward in terms of if there's other opportunities outside of the annual network plan to consult on these operational issues. Rather than long-term service changes that, I guess we need to better define what's a long-term change and what a permanent change is and what is temporary and operational.
And if I just add through the chair, so obviously the annual network plan lays out the network for the year and those changes that we anticipate will be in place for the balance of the year. We understand and we monitor routes though all the time, and so part of that is from customer and community feedback. And so if there are when and if, and there will be in kind of routes that we are not performing or not meeting community needs, then we're happy and continue to work with communities to look and see how those impacts are being felt.
Well, I will say that hasn't been the experience of riders on Queens Quay, and we'll continue to raise that. My final question is about FIFA. And while there is mention of our preparations for hosting the FIFA World Cup, I'm concerned about the depth of what has been shared with us, given how close we are to the games. I'd like to highlight that in May, our commission moved that we would get quarterly updates on service planning, capital projects, and communication, including budgets and timelines, starting last quarter. Can you share how these updates will be moving forward, especially given that we've just had the experience of a major sporting event that brought the whole city together, and we saw how TTC and the service planning around that could have been better and more proactive and responsive to that. We can understand that playoffs come quickly, and we have to be responsive to that. Now we have this massive event with a significant lead time, and this level of detail, given the commitments and the direction, is raising serious questions for me.
Last question.
Through the chair, as you know, the TTC is fully embedded in the TTC's World Cup planning process. We have a dedicated resource and more that we're adding that are part of those conversations that were happening daily. Through the direction of the CEO, but we'll be bringing World Cup updates to this board through the CEO's report, and that will be coming at the next board meeting. And the executive team at the CEO is now receiving those same updates at every one of our executive meetings. And as I said, we're fully embedded on the city team, and planning is going along well, but we'll be bringing a more formal update to this board the next meeting.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Just reset. So I have a question on the 21 Brimley. So it has the feedback operators recommend reverting to the A/B branch structures to help address current issues. What are the current issues?
Through the chair, the 21 Brimley, prior to the pandemic, we've always had a very different demand pattern north and south of Scarborough Centre. So prior to the start of the pandemic, we did operate more frequent service north of Scarborough Centre. Now that the demand of those two portions are actually more similar, we basically are just running a single branch service via Scarborough Centre for the 21 Brimley route. And the reason for this is because if we were to revert to a two-branch operation, the ridership on the northern portion would actually justify even less service than it has based on the current demand that we're seeing on that corridor. So we're actually using this to protect the level of service on the full corridor.
Have you considered the fact that the 21 Brimley now goes to Kennedy Station, extending the route, and from what I understand, a lot of the residents aren't necessarily using it to go to Kennedy?
Through the chair, we can take a look at that as part of the ridership data that we have, and we're happy to reach out to the riders to see where they need to go. As part of the overall review we're planning on doing on bus routes in Scarborough this year because of the Line 3, potential completion of the Line 3 busway, as well as just reviewing how the Line 3 bus replacement network is operating.
Okay. When will that review on the Scarborough bus route start?
We're planning on starting that later this year or early next year in terms of starting with our customer surveys. And then depending on the timing and the volume of the changes, we could be implementing them in year next year, but we'll be sharing a work plan. We can share a work plan with your office as soon as possible.
Thank you. Can you also share that with the rest of the Scarborough councillors?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Next question is on the 134 Middlefield. So I see here feedback, operators mentioned overcrowding due to the nearby tempo, particularly on weekends. Is there any mitigation for that overcrowding?
Through you, Chair, we'll take a look at the most recent data we have, and then we'll either provide a RAD to supplement capacity or make the schedule change. And you said that was the 134 Progress or the 130 Middlefield? 134
Middlefield. And then the next question I had was, we have been dealing with an issue of the 134 Middlefield to Henry Kelsey, which is a special bus. But so I understand there are special buses that go to school, and they don't appear on traditional TTC apps or in the report. How many of those types of buses are there? I just know of the one in my ward because parents had said that the service is inconsistent, which can lead to issues when their kids are taking the buses alone.
Through you, Chair, so we operate and schedule over 150 or so school trips across the city every single day.
Those are specific buses for schools?
They are buses on the routes that are operating a branch to supplement either waiting at school dismissal time or adding capacity around when school starts, but they would be operating as regular 130 Middlefield buses or 56 Leaside buses or whatever. What we are doing on the 130 Middlefield is we're going to be clarifying the stop in front of the school in terms of changing the stop marker to make it clear of when the trips will operate. And just in general, in terms of school trips, we continue to work with the school boards to understand how enrollment changes in school times and making sure that the trips align properly, and then working with our transit control team if there's issues delivering that service.
So are you because from what I remember, the one part of the issue with the 134 Middlefield was that because it's one bus that runs at a specific time to pick kids up, it doesn't actually show up on certain transit apps, so parents can't follow the bus, and it's not listed.
Through you, Chair, it is a scheduled trip, so it should be showing up on our real-time information, but we can take it back and ensure that it does.
And can the buses be labeled more specifically so it's clear? So I understand, again, the reason why I got involved with this is that the bus was labeled, it should have been, the child apparently got on the wrong bus, which led to them being let out in the pouring rain, and the child was a child with special needs. And it just wasn't clear that this was the Henry Kelsey 134 Middlefield bus. So when we're reviewing that, can we just make it very clear if these are special buses to just make it clear for the kids?
So through you, Chair, our usual practice has been that we use the same route number because it's meant to supplement capacity on the existing route. Other systems do special route numbers or whatever school trips because the routing is very different. In this case, it's just a pattern of that route that is just supplementing on there, but we can take that back as an overall review of how we do school trips, and we can report back maybe perhaps through the next annual network plan as well.
Thank you, and my apologies, it was the 130 Middlefield, not the 134. Final question. I have the 129 McCowan North. The feedback is operators recommend reviewing service increases entering the York Region portion of the route. Could you just expand what that means?
Through you, Chair, over the past year or so, we've been getting reports of overcrowding north of Steeles. We have worked with our partners at York Region Transit to identify with them where those trips are overcrowded. Because this is a contracted service that we provide by York Region, York Region has to make the request to us to make that service increase. They have done that, and we have increased service. I believe that was in the spring of this year on the 129 it was in September for dealing with that crowding north of Steeles.
And is York Region paying for that increased service?
Correct, which is why we have to go through York Region.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? No? Anyone to speak? No? Okay. I have two motions that I've pre-circulated. So the first motion is on behalf of Councillor Crisanti, and I believe he worked with TTC staff on this motion. So he gave me the overall rundown of what he's trying to see in that Etobicoke North historically has very poor transit service. It's underserved, and he's hoping to supplement the service similar to what we did with Councillor Ainsley when we initiated the pilot for the community bus route. So he's hoping to do something similar. To be clear, the TTC is not making any financial decisions. The estimated annual operating cost of the service he would seek, he would then have to go to City Council to request those funds. That's a similar route that we did when we approved the community bus route for Councillor Ainsley. He had to go to Council to approve those funds. And I should do the second one too. And the second motion is to direct TTC staff to monitor service performance and customer feedback about the surface network changes for lines 5 and 6, and where required, develop and communicate mitigation plans with customers and affected local councillors. So we've been hearing some feedback, particularly for the people affected by the route changes along line 5, that the bus route has changed. And line 5 is not yet operating, so this is just in response to those complaints. No changes, but mostly just to monitor the service performance and report back if any changes are needed. So happy to take clarification on both. Commissioner Osborne.
Yeah, on the motion about that bus route, this is a route that the staff had recommended we not do in the paperwork. And so I'm just trying to understand what we're voting on here. And so this motion is to actually undo that recommendation, provided that City Council comes up with $1 million that we need to make it go.
Correct.
Okay, well, I opposed the last one, overruling staff on the city bus. I'm going to oppose this too. I just feel like this is what we pay staff for. But anyway, okay, thank you. I just wanted clarification.
Okay. Any other questions? No, seeing none. Any other speakers? Okay. So I will have a motion on the item put forward by Councillor Crisanti. All those in favor? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3. Item passes. All those in favor of the item I put on the monitoring of the line 5 and line 6. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item is amended. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next, we will go to back to the transit network expansion update. Does any members have questions they'd like to ask in public? Commissioner Mallow.
Yeah, so I'll begin with Eglinton. Could you share what you know publicly, what you're able to publicly about both the impact of the car collision on the progress of, sorry, if you guys could just quiet down a little bit, noise carries, thank you. On the revenue service demonstration, I understand that it had to be reset, but just how does that impact the timeline of actually opening Eglinton? And do we have a date that we're aware of where it may open? And then also, I keep hearing about the possibility of, so I want to understand, like, is the signal system working or not? Is there a bigger problem or not? And then also, I keep hearing suggestions that the age of the cars are a problem. And is there a concern that even when it opens, whenever Eglinton opens, could that impact the speed of the service or any other part of the service because the cars have aged out because it's taken so long to actually open the line in the first place?
So in terms of your question for Eglinton, as you're aware and as communicated within the brief, there was an incident within the yard. And as also communicated, the yard is something we don't have visibility of. But in terms of the specifics of the technical detail that you're requesting.
Is there a bigger problem with the signal system?
So the root cause of that incident is still, as highlighted, Metrolinx are working through with Alstom. So for that specific, when we get the report, we'll have more information.
Do we know when we're going to get the report?
Sorry?
Do we know when we're going to get the report?
As of we don't have that timeline. But what we do have through the safety reviews that we've been party to was the assurance by their independent recorder rail and the independent safety experts to resume our RSD. So we have continued that.
So that's been reset. What about the age of the cars, and is that a concern? And does that or any other factor impact the speed of the service once it's open?
So again, so not being privy to the technical details of the cars because they were procured within the Metrolinx contract, was obviously a confidential contract. And so I couldn't answer that question in terms of what you're specifically asking or requesting. That would be more for a technical review from Metrolinx to define.
Do you, just to be clear, do you know and you can't say, or you just don't know?
We don't have that technical information.
You don't have it?
We don't have that technical. Just to elaborate, we don't have it because it wasn't our contract, just to be transparently clear.
But Metrolinx isn't being forthcoming yet about what they do know, or?
It's their contract and they will manage it how they deem appropriate in order to deliver the service and reliability that they've said they will deliver safely through when they can prove it via the RSD.
What I'm confused about is just the lack of transparency with respect to Metrolinx and us. Like, we need to know that it's going to be safe and functional before we take it over to operate. So, like, do you understand why are they not being more forthcoming about these kind of details as, you know, even as they investigate? Like, are they blocking us from information, or like?
So again, the RSD, the revenue service.
Yeah.
The revenue service will define how reliable the assets are, which we are engaged with. So that aspect of it, we're working very collaboratively with Metrolinx. In terms of the inner workings of a contract, as you will know, there's contracts that we are not privy to because we're not part of. So I really can't answer your questions in respect to detailed contractual aspects of what Metrolinx, or would I want to comment upon what Metrolinx contracts are with their contractor, but I don't believe that would be the right thing to do.
Speaking of digging for information, is the boring machine still stuck in Scarborough?
So, I'm not, sorry, I'm not aware of that.
Am I wrong? I I believe that there was a problem with the Scarborough line and the boring machine actually being stuck for a period of time.
So again,
Am I right?
I would direct that question to Metrolinx with all due respect.
But do we know? Do we not know?
Again, as I said, I would direct that question to Metrolinx.
But I don't get to ask questions of Metrolinx. I just want to know if we know whether or not that's still a problem or if work is underway in Scarborough. Do we not know?
Again, I would direct that question to Metrolinx.
That answer, I know you're directing that question to Metrolinx, but I don't sit on their board. Is that a confidential matter? Am I not allowed to ask the question?
So again, like you, I don't sit on their board neither. So I would just respectfully ask that you direct that question to Metrolinx.
I'm not satisfied with that, but I will respect the fact that you don't want to pursue that in this forum. But I don't understand, frankly, why I'm not getting a more of a straight answer about whether or not we even know the status of the Scarborough line and if the boring machine is moving. But again, I'll digress just because you're not going to answer that. But
Last question.
but I do want to understand why I'm being referred to Metrolinx when you know as well as I do, they're not very forthcoming about information. That's why I'm asking here.
Last question. Anybody else with questions? Commissioner Osborne?
Gear change here to the plans for the Waterfront East LRT and the Eglinton East LRT. We've just had that report from the UITP that talked about the issues around the speeds of our surface rail. And I'm wondering now that we have the sort of the cold, hard facts here, if the design of these two new surface lines are going to be taking some of those observations that we got from UITP about, the reasons that our speeds are so slow relate to parking and CAFETO and all those kinds of things. Are we wedging these lines onto the same infrastructure to get the same result? Or in the planning, are we able to accommodate some of the learning that we've gotten from this and other observational reports about how that impacts the speeds of the service?
So I'll refer you to the customer strategy officer, Josh.
Thank you. Through the chair, yes. So this is, I would call it a higher order, like truly light rail kind of model. And so some of the issues that we face, even with some of our right-of-ways on our streetcar network, would be addressed through the kind of the design and planning of these types of lines.
Thank you, Commissioner Osborne. Any other questions? No? Any speakers? Sure.
Respectfully, I was not satisfied with the answers that I received from my questions. There was a major incident with two cars colliding at a yard that has impacted the delivery of the Eglinton Crosstown. There have been reasonable questions raised about whether or not Eglinton's even going to open this year after 15 years. Businesses impacted, neighborhoods impacted, all of us cheated out of the transit that we were promised many years ago. And Metrolinx has been completely secret and unaccountable for a project that's been mishandled, right straight back to the P3 and onwards. And when I ask questions at the TTC about what we know, the reason why I believe this should be public, frankly, is because Metrolinx operates in a way that's just like so removed from the public. There is no accountability. Years ago, they removed public officials from even sitting on their board. And I really think that we could provide a public service by shining some light, again, within reason, and I understand that there are certain things that legally we can't, I get that, but I really believe that we can play a role in providing some basic information about where things stand to the public in a way that Metrolinx has ignored. Do you remember that Phil Verster press conference? It was almost satirical if it wasn't so serious, where he held a press conference to announce that they could make no announcement. And then when the media pushed for information, he said, give us some space. And that's how they've been operating all these years. Similar with Scarborough. I mean, there was a huge, you remember the big debate over Scarborough, and then ultimately the subway won, but residents haven't won. They've been left on the bus. None of what was promised was true by subway proponents at the time. There was no seamless transition between the RT and the subway opening. We know that now because that's reality for residents of Scarborough. And then there's suggestions that the boring machine actually got stuck underground, and I want to know what's going on. I want to know if that's on target. I want to know when Scarborough residents are finally going to have the subway they were promised. When are they going to be off the bus? I don't know. We keep talking about waterfront, we keep talking about Eglinton East, but it's not funded. So we go through all these consultations and design meetings and stuff, but we have no money for it. So these are also kind of promises hanging out there. And the reason I'm expressing my frustration, it's not just directed to us. I mean, it's Metrolinx, it's different politicians over the years, all of that, is that at the end of the day, like the result that we're left with when it comes to transit expansion is like no Eglinton, without actually understanding why no Eglinton, which in itself is unfair. Like if we got problems, let's just say them and let's deal with them and fix them so that it doesn't happen again. Scarborough has been like an absolute fiasco, and residents are suffering now because of that, and I don't understand, nor does anyone in Scarborough. Nobody knows actually when the subway is going to open and what the problems are and what the reality is. And why should that be? Like, we are accountable to the public. So is Metrolinx. And they forget that, or they don't care. But we're closest to the ground, and that's why I think we have a special role to play. When it comes to waterfront, Eglinton East, these are things we talk about, but there is no sign that we're actually going to get these really funded anytime soon for this generation to actually be able to benefit from. And we've got a transit expansion office that has never once expanded transit. So, like, here we are. And I'm sorry to just express this upset, but like that's how people feel, that's how I feel. And I'll say this for the last time today. Our allegiance should be to the residents of Toronto when it comes to this basic information about what the challenges are. We should be pushing back to Metrolinx and saying, no, it's not acceptable to be so secret. The lack of transparency is not cool. You work for the people, you're funded by tax dollars. Everyone gets that there's problems sometimes, but when you've got problems in life, just deal with it, own it, accept it, be honest about it, then we want to fix it. And I'm expressing this frustration because I think that we can do better.
Thank you. Any other speakers on the item? Councillor Bravo.
I have so many in my ward. Metrolinx is on Eglinton. We've got 3 so-called smart track stations, a bunch of promises that were made in 2014 and then broken with a change of government. But let's remember that this agency was created in 2006. In 2009, elected people, representatives of regions, were specifically left out, removed from the board. So we have an arm's length agency with very little experience of building transit. And there are so many examples of problems, of errors, of delays. At the core of this is a rejection of the Toronto Transit Commission's comparatively stellar record of building transit. With decades of experience set aside for a public-private partnership model, which is supposed to deliver on time and on budget. It's done neither. And the people that are paying are the people of Toronto, the people of Ottawa, the people of other cities. it is very challenging and frustrating that we cannot share with the public what Metrolinx provides in confidence to this commission and to this board. I am very frustrated. I wish to achieve a level of accountability that would exist had the TTC been tasked with doing this work within the City of Toronto. This isn't the only time where we see insufficiencies and mistakes. I recall that we had to put funding and to put replacement buses because of the Line 1 and the fact that Metrolinx does not understand how to build transit in a complex downtown like in the City of Toronto. So let's not forget that a bunch of money went into private pockets, besmirching the role of a public agency like the TTC and of government, all with claims that the private sector could do better. But the reality has been that it has not worked. We're all paying for it. And one of the casualties isn't just the transit rider who isn't being served, the rezoning that is creating massive intensification and density without proper service, and the displacement of many people and businesses on Eglinton who are now pushed away while we can all see that the line is there. It's also transparency that's been lost, and accountability and faith. And unfortunately, many people in the public don't understand that TTC and Metrolinx are not the same. But I know that what is being done by TTC is to ensure that a high standard of safety and efficiency is what we're going to expect in assuming it's the operations of this line. But I really think it's time to say in this country that this public-private partnership model is a failure, and we have the evidence here for year after year.
Thank you, Commissioner Bravo. Any other speakers? No one online? No? Okay. Seeing no further speakers, can I please have a motion to adopt the report recommendations? Councillor Bravo, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now we will go to item 10.6, TTC 10.6 Asset Management International Association of Public Transport Peer Review, Management Responses, and we will begin with questions. Does anybody have questions on this? No? Okay, I have a couple questions. First question, does management have any significant disagreements with anything in the UITP review?
I would say, Chair, there's no disagreements. All of the responses have been categorized into either accepted and in progress. 20 of the 32 recommendations fall into that category. Another 10 fall into the category of requiring further analysis, and that's only to present the board with evidence-based decision-making capabilities so that they require a little more exploration. And then 2 are just taken as, frankly, compliments on some of the in-house resourcing and other activities here at the TTC.
Thank you. How will management be reporting to the board and the public on their progress on the recommendations?
Many of the recommendations are already in progress. As I suggested, 20 of them are in progress, and those are built in. Very many of them are associated with the Enterprise Asset Management Program generally, and so there is, at the very least, annual reporting on that program through the Enterprise Asset Management Plan that we are obligated to produce annually. The others are requiring deeper dives and are also programmed to come to the board with that information once it's available for decisions.
So just to be clear, the board will be updated on your progress on the UITP review through the annual asset management plan?
Primarily, yes.
Okay. Are there any significant requirements of funding needed to implement any of the UITP recommendations? I understand there's some issues that we don't have the legislative authority, but is there a funding issue?
Yes, and I don't think that will surprise anyone. With this, we are somewhat underfunded for the state of good repair generally, and so many of the keen initiatives that come out of this review, we would love to have fully funded, but there remains a gap.
Okay. And is there any issue, so the UITP report, we've already publicly reported on this, that they are our subway streetcars are slower than the global average. Is there anything that management can say that they're currently doing to expedite this?
So I think the report spoke to the streetcars being slower than the global average. I don't recall a reference to subways being slower.
Sorry, streetcars, yes.
Streetcars.
Yes.
And there are many complicating factors. The fact that many of our routes have to run in mixed traffic. There are definitely some intersection challenges, but I think with what the board has seen through bunching and gapping, there is a renewed emphasis on improving the overall timeliness and reliability of streetcar routes. And so I would expect over the next year or two, there will be decisions coming to the board and to City Council relative to some of the traffic measures that can be taken to increase that speed. It is now a metric that we will be including in our reports to this board.
Thank you. And regarding the removal of streetcar stops in order to speed up the streetcars, where is that decision currently?
Through the chair, through some of the analysis that we've been doing in the bunching and gapping work, we have begun to look at those routes, especially the focused routes, and where stop removal could advance or improve performance and speed. And so that analysis continued, but we right now we've had some conversations with local councillors about those implications and are still working through that consultation and doing some more detailed analysis. So it's ongoing right now, and as I said, we've just been to, in particular on St. Clair, the local councillors who, to have discussions with them.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Any speakers? No? Okay, I have a motion that I've worked on with the mayor. So the motion, one, direct the CEO and interim COO to work with the general manager, transportation services, and report back in Q1 2026 on the development of a plan to accelerate the implementation of enhanced signal priority for all streetcar lines, not just the ones that are currently in the bunching and gapping pilot, but all of them. And then item 2, direct the CEO and interim COO to work with the GM Transportation Services on conducting an analysis of intersections across all streetcar routes to identify intersections where streetcar movement has been inhibited by congestion and traffic flow challenges, and to prioritize deployment of traffic agents to the intersections identified in the analysis. So we've all seen the work that's happened on King Street with the deployment of traffic agency and just making that line work significantly better. So the mayor is interested to see if this can be replicated in other parts of the service on other streetcar lines throughout the system. So that is what these two motions aim to do. And I'm happy to take any questions. No? Okay. Sure.
You said this is the mayor's interested in having this done?
Yes.
But aren't we directing the city to do this?
Pardon?
Aren't we isn't
We
this
can't
to
direct
say?
the city.
We can't, so we're directing the CEO to work with the city, but
Exactly.
can't the mayor get the city to do it?
The mayor can get the city to do that on the city side.
Yeah.
But we can only do that on the TTC side. So city council can only request that TTC do something. They can't direct TTC to do anything.
But I thought they are the ones that are doing it, the transit signal priority. That's a city function.
But the TTC would have to identify where the
Okay.
priority
okay,
lanes
gotcha,
would be. Yeah.
Gotcha, thank you. And thank the mayor, please.
Yeah. Okay, we'll just take the items together. All those in favor? Item is amended. All those in favor? Great. As well as the action taken in camera. All those in favor? Yeah, thank you. Okay. We are now on to the final item. So this is the new item that was added. So this is the item creating a late night service for major special events policy by Chair Jamal Meyer, seconded by Councillor Josh Matlow. This motion was deemed urgent because we needed to ensure safety and preparedness for future large-scale events such as New Year's Eve. Does anybody have any questions on this item? So Councillor Matlow, then Councillor Bravo.
So I'm, to whomever can answer this question best, I just want to reiterate the question that I asked earlier about the fact that the official statement from the TTC regarding this event was that this was considered a one where we were embedded with emergency management and other partners, the Rogers Center, to determine whether or not we were going to be moving forward with extended service. And a decision was made not to, based on, I believe, advice from emergency management. But there are other events like Nuit Blanche and New Year's Eve where that wasn't the test. It was that we knew that there would be revelers with people out till early morning hours, and we wanted to provide that service proactively. Why was one approach taken to one and different approaches taken to other events? If that's true. Why didn't we just know that Game 7 is going to be a big friggin' deal and ensure that we had extended service to the early morning hours like we've done with New Year's Eve and Nuit Blanche?
So I refer you to the COO board.
Through the chair. So it's definitely a takeaway, through the chair, it's definitely a takeaway, Commissioner Matlow. I think that when you look at Nuit Blanche and you look at New Year's Eve, that is something that is very easily scheduled months in advance. And it does allow us the opportunity to make the plan, have people sign into it. I think with Game 7 or any playoff game that runs late, the takeaway for us to consider is how do we pivot and make a schedule that is dynamic. And what I mean by that is we don't know months in advance that something is going to happen. We literally have weeks, if you even get that. For example, the Leafs won't announce, because the next big event that I've got in my mind is Leafs. Let's hope to get to the playoffs this year.
I love your optimism.
But I mean, we need to pivot quickly because the NHL or the MLSE isn't going to make an announcement weeks and weeks in advance. You're going to make an announcement literally days in advance. So the question is, how do we pivot? Do we run an all-night service? Do we run until 3 o'clock? We need to take that away.
I appreciate that. And hasn't that happened like in the early days when New Year's Eve was part of the program? That actually wasn't months in advance, was it? Like that was, we got a sponsor, we figured it out. Could we learn from those lessons and maybe bring them forward to maybe a Raptors championship, maybe a Leafs championship, certainly FIFA, right? Like, am I hearing you correctly that you recognize that we should be working on that agility? And yes, as Councillor Bravo raised, finding ways to fund these things, maybe that contribute to our budget.
Through the chair, yes, from my standpoint, that commitment is there from my office.
I appreciate that. How is the communications coordinated with the city on this? Because can we agree that like the city, in particular the city's retweet of ours was like really bad? Like really bad. It came across as dismissive. I think it tried to be cute, but it didn't land, and it ultimately made people feel like they were on their own. How do we coordinate that? Because like we know that games are coming up, we know that FIFA's coming up, and like we should be locked and loaded when it comes to a communication strategy. And if there was freelancing or somebody who thought that they were coming up with a cute line, like there isn't room for that at these moments, especially a huge sensitive moment when our team loses, right? Like there's no appetite for that, along with being stranded. How can we better coordinate, in your view, with the city and other partners, including Metrolinx, to make sure that that the communications come through as helpful and contributing to people's plans rather than telling them you've missed the train?
Through the chair, thanks for the question. So I think I can't comment necessarily on the unfortunate tone of that one tweet. But to say that we are certainly embedded with the city communication, and so with most of these events, as you'd imagine, when multi-agency events, there is a lead and kind of a top of the pyramid, and we are embedded, whether it be in the planning of it from a communications perspective or day of. I think what we've discussed in relations today, but I would say in general, especially with the World Cup coming, I think there needs to be clear kind of lines of kind of control and some of those triggers for the unexpected. Because when it's expected, New Year's Eve, like we can do it, and we know we can. And so I think there's more work to be done there. I think the other thing that we recognize is that the way while we use social media as a tool, it's a very imperfect one, because that assumes, or our website, we had information all over our website, that assumes our customer wants to go to ttc.ca or somehow is going to start following us on Instagram and Twitter. And I don't think that's a fair assumption. And so the future has to be that we are going to where they are. So our customers, and like all of us, are on our phones constantly. And so the future, and something that we're looking at seeing if we can get investment dollars in, is how do we get in where our users are, where our customers are, on their phone, whether that's their payment app, their travel journey planning app. That's where we need to push out these types of notifications to be really effective. We need to do better on social media. We've got teams dedicated to that. I feel like that's a 2000 solution. What's the 2026 solution? And it's in-hand, in-app. And so that's something that we're developing, and we've done it successfully with notifications around safety and some service disruptions that way. I think there's more to be done there. But on the whole, we coordinate with the city, we'll continue to. In World Cup, as I mentioned on another question, we're fully embedded and are well ahead on planning. It's the unexpected ones where I think we just need to know everyone's roles and responsibilities.
Thank you.
Next, I have Commissioner Bravo and Commissioner Ainsley. You're up.
Thank you, Chair. Can someone comment on what happened with the Up Express service after Game 7 of the World Series, and when was it supposed to end, and when did it actually end? Does anyone know?
Again, I would refer to Metrolinx for that particular detail.
Something happened there. Did Metrolinx add additional service on GO trains to get people to and from the World Series games, and did they have a plan to extend service? Also no?
Again,
Yeah, not you.
I would refer to Metrolinx on that.
Okay, not via the CEO of TTC. They did not do those things. And so I won't ask when Go service ended on Saturday night. Is it accurate that many of the videos, or maybe most of the videos that were shared online, were of people not able to get onto the Up Express and Go Transit services? Has anyone taken a look at that?
I would refer to Communications Lead Natalie on that one.
Through the chair, what I can confirm is many of the videos I saw did reflect things that were happening in Union Station on Metrolinx side.
Did Metrolinx collaborate with TTC on service planning, scheduling, and communications about public transit options for people trying to get to and leaving downtown?
Through the chair, there were collaborations for Game 6, Game 7, and a potential parade.
Okay, so there were collaborations. Did those include communicating service? Did they include the potential impact on within the city of not extending service on the Metrolinx side? Because there was so the TTC extended service, and then there's the night routes that, I mean, everybody, I've definitely been on the night bus, it's super fun, but won't tell you what we call it. But was there communication about what the potential impact would be? No, okay. And what about collaboration between TTC and Metrolinx to manage crowding at Union Station?
Through the mix.
So that would be, again, that for the plan, we would have shared those by the EOC, and then monitor them via the stations, CCTV footage, and then feedback via the control center back to the EOC.
But it really isn't up to TTC to tell Metrolinx how to manage its lines, is it?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Next, we have Commissioner Ainsley. Did you have questions? No? Okay. Vice Chair Mihevc.
Sorry, this Metrolinx thing is starting to be a bit bothersome. There was a cross-party team of people that was working the last week and the end of the week to figure out transportation needs for Game 6, Game 7, and the parade that would have happened had the Blue Jays won. Is that correct? And was the TTC part of it?
Through the chair, yes.
And who else was part of it?
Through the chair, as far as we know, we definitely had the city
What do you
there.
mean, as far as we know? If you're part of it, you know who's sitting at the table. It's not as far as we know.
Vice
Either
Chair,
you know or you don't know.
I wasn't at the table.
Respectfully.
I wasn't at the table, respectfully, but I can say that Metrolinx was there, the City of Toronto was there, and TTC was there.
So those are the three major, and not the police, not ambulance, that's a different crew of people.
Toronto Police was there, as were fire.
And they everyone's reviewing each other's plans to make sure that there's a sense of coordination and logistical coherence.
Through the chair,
Is that
yes.
fair to say?
That's correct.
So why would we not know if Metro, like, what is on us, what is on the city, and what is on Metrolinx? I just don't understand.
So
Shouldn't we know, like, what we need to do better? And shouldn't we have an opinion on the pieces of the plan that befell to Metrolinx and to the city to do better organization?
So through the chair, I can comment that the TTC was at those tables, and the TTC was mindful of exactly what it needed to do as it fit within the context of everybody else's work. So we were clear on what we were doing, and we were clear on what we were communicating, and we believe that for the most part, we executed what we said we were going to do.
And certainly the data, like 40 some odd buses and service till 1:30 in the morning or 1:45, at least 1:45 in the morning, all bespeaks well of our role. And I think that part is good. But I'm just betwixt and between trying to figure out why we don't know. Do we know when the Metrolinx stops service even?
So through the chair, Metrolinx, as we understand it, stopped service in and around just after the ball game. I don't have the actual time because I don't know what actually happened that particular night, but we do believe they stopped service at a particular time right after the ball game.
I see. And that's the problem because people hung around. And if you're going to Mississauga or Oshawa, you were hanging out downtown and you really didn't have a way to get home.
Through the chair, the game went into extra innings and likely lasted longer than a traditional 9-inning game would last.
So the Metro service did not meet the fact that it went so long. Is that fair to say?
Through the chair, yes. From everything we've seen from the customer complaints.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other questions? Okay, I have some questions. So my first question is, have we figured out how the erroneous tweet got out?
Through the chair, sorry, which is the erroneous
The
tweet?
one saying that service was going to end at 1:30 a.m. from the TTC.
Through the chair, that wasn't erroneous at that time when it went out before. So that was an automated tweet that went out before the game that said subway service is scheduled till 1:30 a.m. So at that point, when it went out at 6 p.m., that was the plan. Obviously, we had the redundancies in place if we needed to extend service based on how the game went. And all those kind of buses that the CEO mentioned and extra service that was available was ready. But the communication we sent out at that time before the game at 6 said that we've got service scheduled till 1:30, parking is free, plan accordingly. I know that was then retweeted with different context and tone later on, but that was the 6 p.m. tweet that went out to help people prepare and alert them to the fact that subway service was actually going to be available to them in hopes quite a bit past the end of the game time. And that was that tweet.
So is it fair to say that that automated tweet should not have gone out based on everything we now know?
Through the chair, no, I would suggest it should have gone out because at that time, 1:30 a.m. was the information we were giving to our customers. If the game and the conditions of the game changed, we would have provided that information and adjusted that messaging.
Should that messaging have been communicated earlier to customers that don't worry if the game goes late, we'll be extending subway service or something to that effect?
Through the chair, between that early before the game tweet and then what happened later in the day, I think we all agree that we could have given a comforting message that, hey, we're there for you if things do go late. But that was, as I said, went out earlier to kind of reassure people that parking was free at our stations and that the subway would be running for them till that time at the very least.
In the overall review, one of the things that we've heard is that, sometimes it can be confusing. There are different, the TTC account sometimes doesn't provide the same information across the different TTC accounts. There's several people working on the account. They sign off on their own with their own initiative, their own initials. And it can create some inconsistency in how we communicate, respond to customers. Is that something that's going to be looked at now in terms of how we respond to customers?
Through the chair, we're happy to look at that, include that with everything look at. But on that evening, we had a dedicated person to social. They were on standby and they were up and attending and monitoring through the entire night, ready to provide more information if they were given information on a change in service or something else that was going to happen. And that was only a single person.
And does that person or does anyone else from the TTC sort of monitor the communications being given, at least related to transit, being given by other organizations that, such as the City of Toronto or perhaps Metrolinx, to ensure that they are accurate?
Through the chair, we do have a kind of a chain of command, and that they were all on standby that night and monitoring. I think the challenge is in an instance where if a different entity or agency has given erroneous information, how to navigate that in real time on dueling Twitter accounts, I don't think is the right approach. And so it speaks, I think, to some of the coordination and embedded kind of integration that we discussed earlier.
So did anyone notice that the City of Toronto had made an inaccurate tweet, shall we say, based on the TTC's information?
We're still through the chair, we're still dissecting that, so I can't say in real time what that person who was assigned to the Twitter account, how they read the City of Toronto's tweet at whatever time that was, at 12:10. But obviously what they were waiting on was from instructions about whether they were to put out a message around changes in service.
And does that person have a direct line of contact to the City of Toronto's social media in terms of, hey, they can just pick up the phone and say, hey, I think your tweet is inaccurate, or it should say this instead of that?
Through the chair, as we mentioned earlier, they're all embedded together on the communications team. I don't know what the official name is, whether they're calling each other during the night. I just have to check on that and kind of report back on what that would be. Our hope would be that we'd have something more formal than relying on the two people who have maybe been put on standby that evening and kind of communicating that way when it's a matter of tweets. But fundamentally, we also believe there's got to be a more robust and comprehensive way of communicating with our customers on site, in app, on website, and it's not just a social media exercise.
Thank you. So I guess when you were reviewing Metrolinx's plan, was there ever a moment where anyone said, hey, maybe you shouldn't consider ending your service at 1 a.m.? Based on what we know, your Up Express service? Or even if that was the case, TTC would then have to ensure that it had some way of getting those customers around because they're going to be stuck there.
So I'll refer you to the COO board.
Sorry, we haven't entirely done a complete dissection of and interviewed all the people who are on those committees, but nothing was flagged leading up to our go live plan. But allow me to take that back to see if there anyone had flagged that Metrolinx was ending service at a time that was concerning to us. Nothing had been flagged to me, but allow me to go back and circle back with the folks that were on those committees.
Okay, thank you very much. No other questions to speak? Councillor Matlow?
So first I want to thank Chair Myers for immediately understanding the impact of the events on public confidence the night of Game 7 and working so quickly to prepare this motion. I'm very, very happy to support the intent of better planning for these special events along with improving our communications. And I really, again, Jamal, I really want to acknowledge that you intuitively understood very quickly why this was important to Torontonians and for the reputation of our agency. I heard Fort's response earlier to me, and it was the first time that I've heard throughout this discussion a genuine acknowledgement about doing things better. And I just find that that is such an important part of, again, building confidence and trust as we, want to do the good work that we do and provide the service that we want to provide. I say this, like you would give constructive criticism to a friend you love. I don't believe that when there's criticism and concern raised by the public about an action or an inaction of this organization, that our knee-jerk response should always be, but look how great we are and it's somebody else's problem, even if you believe it. I don't think that's how you build trust. People need to hear some contrition. They need to understand that there's lessons that need to be learned, and there needs to be some demonstration that things will be better. Because it doesn't really matter if, Metrolinx dropped the ball. Like the main concerns, and I think we saw that in some videos floated around where there were people like piling out of the dome. They were in a crunch. They were actually told to go into a line. And then right at the end of the line, after waiting, they were told that the train had already left and they were stuck and they couldn't get back to Hamilton or Burlington or wherever they were coming in from. And that was awful. But I think the reason that, yes, people conflate the different transit agencies, that happens all the time. But I think the reason why people expect more from the TTC as well is that it's not good enough to say, well, you can take the bus and we've made that better for you and you're fine and we've taken care of things. The subway is an integral part of how people get around the city. And we've seen on New Year's Eve, we've seen Nuit Blanche, we've seen other events where we did fairly predict that there'd be people out into the early morning hours, and we were prepared and we did a great job. And we provided that service, and we often found sponsors to support the cost of doing that. And it isn't a leap to say that if once we got into the playoffs and there was a realistic possibility that we might end up having postseason games here, along with, eventually Game 7 of the World Series, that we should have put our mind to what we can do and working with Metrolinx early on with a communications plan baked in to demonstrate to the public that we understand what goes into a postseason time in a big city, where there are going to be people going not just to the Sky Dome, which is, yes, a big deal because you've got 40 to 50,000 fans there, but also to house parties and to bars and to, and if we had won, a massive event in our streets, we could have predicted that, and I think we should have. And I hope that, and Ford has made that commitment about that, looking at that agility, that if the Raptors do pull this off, if the Leafs I was joking earlier that I don't know what's going to come earlier, Eglinton line or the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup. But if they do win it, if they do get there, we've got to be prepared for that. That'll be one of the biggest events in our city's history since 1967. We know that FIFA's coming, the World Cup is coming, and it will be an international embarrassment if we don't look like the big city that we should be. That recognizes that people are out and about in the middle of the night to the early morning when big events are happening here. I believe that we can do better, and I think our message to the public should be that we recognize that the night of Game 7, the morning after Game 7, there were a lot of failures. That Metrolinx absolutely dropped the ball, but we also can have better plans to prepare for major events and make sure that people not only can get to where they're going without a car, but get home safely and reliably. Do you remember looking at Dodger Stadium, those drone videos of Dodger Stadium during the series? They've got a sea of cars, of parking lots, if I may just indulge me for a moment. They have a sea of cars and parking lots around Dodger Stadium. And I felt so proud that our stadium, yeah, I still call it the Sky Dome, and I always will. I raised a 12-year-old daughter still calling it the Sky Dome. But it's right in the downtown of our city. We want to encourage people to take transit, to get there and get home. So then we should make sure that they have transit to get home, no matter if it's 9 innings, 11 innings, or 18 innings. And we can do better. And I really strongly believe that if we make it clear to the public that that is our goal, that we want to ensure that contextual to what the event is, that we're going to be providing better service, not the test of if it's an emergency or not, but because we want to provide better service, then I think that test is what we will pass, and I think the public will be very grateful to us. So I really, again, I just want to say, thank you for getting it so quickly, Chair Myers. And this motion is asking you, and for it, you've already acknowledged that you plan to do this, and I appreciate it. Let's have plans to demonstrate to the public that we are ready to be the big city, the world-class city that we want to be for any major event, including the Raptors, the Leafs, and FIFA coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? No, seeing none. Okay, I will speak. First, I just have a quick amendment on the item, just to report back date for Q1 2026. And I will just say, overall, the service was fine. The service was solid. There were minor interruptions. However, where we really didn't do well was the communications, and we'll have to take that back and we'll own it. But I will point out, I've now done a press conference, 2 interviews. I have another one at 4:30. The CEO has also done a press conference, and the issues were not with TTC. They were with Metrolinx. And I have yet to hear anything from their side. And I think we've been very respectful in that we are partners. We don't want to throw them under the bus. But I think we all can acknowledge what we saw on videos and we heard and read in the newspaper. And I think if Metrolinx is really serious about taking this feedback and criticism, and we are willing to work with them to improve the service, because at the end of the day, we want people taking transit, whether they take GO trains, My Way, or TTC. And instances like this just erode public trust. So I really do hope Metrolinx will take this episode with a grain of humility and really work with TTC, as we do have decades of experience on doing these types of large-scale events. And we have shown that when we do work together, we can do great work together. 6 Taylor Swift concerts without incident. Historically, there was always a problem with overcrowding at Union Station. Now we've been able to resolve that. So I really do hope this motion is a step forward in, deepening that relationship and that collaboration with Metrolinx and other transit agencies to make sure that we're really providing the type of transit service that people can rely on and they don't have to think twice about when they take. I see Commissioner Sachs there. Commissioner Sachs, did you want to speak? She's joining us from Rio. Do you want to speak on the item? No? Okay. And with that, I will move the motion to adopt the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. And that is it. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Motion to adjourn. Yes. Okay, fair. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.